Who should Essendon's next captain be? We're going to go through the options in this video. So with Zach Merrett appearing to be leaving Essendon, we're going to be on the lookout for a new captain. And even if Zach Merrett stays, I think most of you would agree that his position is probably untenable as captain anyway. How could you remain captain of the club under the circumstances that he's put the club in at the moment? I just think that's not going to happen, which means one way or the other, we're going to be looking for a new captain. So I thought I'd have a bit of a look at a few of the options because there are some good options for us. It's not always a straightforward decision because we do have a leadership group at the moment consisting of 4 players, but there are also some players outside of the leadership group who, if not would be captain next year, would be pretty good future captains, I think. So Essendon is the type of club that does like to have a captain. Not everyone has done that. I always remember back to St Kilda with Grant Thomas and what they used to do. And I actually thought it was an outside-the-box thing to do. And, I don't like to knock outside-the-box suggestions because sometimes I think, that's how you get an edge on someone and that's how you can do something that no one else is doing. And I thought what they did, if you remember, they would actually give the captain to a different player each year. It wasn't just Nick Riewoldt that had it. One year, a good young player would have it, and then the next year another player would have it. And the whole point of that was that at the end of 4 or 5 years, 4 or 5 players had been captain and they'd all had the experience of being a leader. So you were kind of creating leaders as you were going each year. I thought that was an interesting thing to do. Essendon has a history of choosing one captain. We don't have dual captains or rotate the captaincy or anything like that. That's something that we've done for over 100 years, so we won't do that. I just thought that was an interesting thing that the Saints did back then, and I wasn't one of the people mocking it. I thought it was something that did have merit, but we will definitely be choosing a captain one way or the other, a single captain. So the options are Andrew McGrath. Now, Andrew McGrath is probably my choice. He's the current vice-captain, and he's actually a pretty popular player amongst all the other players, especially a lot of the young players. He does have a bit of a different style to Merrett. I always thought Merrett, whether he remains as captain or not, I never really rated him as a particularly good captain. We all think he's a great player, but I don't think he's a great captain, and I think McGrath potentially could be. And the reason I think Merrett's not and McGrath could be is Merrett is very insular. He's very self-centered. He wants success for himself and he's very demanding of other people. That's fine, but you sense that he's demanding of other people kind of with himself in mind. He's also kind of introverted, and I never really see him being popular with the kids or anything like that. McGrath is very personable. The young players really get along with him. Merrett's style is kind of very sort of demanding and uncompromising, and that's fine. But McGrath's style is very much the encouraging type of style, which I think is kind of suited to his personality. So McGrath, I think, is probably the favourite for the job, just given that he's the vice-captain. And I just think that style tends to gel with a lot of the other younger players. You don't necessarily have to be the best player to be captain, and I do think McGrath's probably in our top, what would it be, 5, maybe top 5 or 6 players. So he's got no hope of getting dropped or anything like that. You need your captain, among your starting 18, obviously, but you don't have to have the best player as the captain. I think that potentially falls into the trap if you just pick your best player as captain, like Merrett. You fall into the trap of potentially not picking the best captain because you're just sort of picking them because they're the best player. So I think McGrath, because of his personable style, his popular style, his encouraging style, the fact that he's the vice-captain now, the fact that there were some good signs from him when he was mic'd up as the captain in that, I think it was the St Kilda game a few weeks ago, point to him probably being the logical choice as captain. He would be my endorsement personally. Obviously, I'm not in the inner sanctum of the club, but I think he would be the one to go. But there are a few other options. Mason Redmond, 28 years old. I liked Mason Redmond's commitment last week when he was asked and he was talking about the whole situation regarding Merrett, and he was mentioning how it was disappointing and we need someone to lead us through this. And I thought that sounded like someone who was loyal. And Redmond's kind of in a similar situation to Merrett and Ridley. Redmond signed a long-term deal. but he's holding himself to that long-term deal and he's committed to the club. And you can tell from his commentary a couple of days ago where he was sort of, in a way, kind of calling out Merrett, saying it was all disappointing. You can tell that he's, committed to the cause. So I think that's a good sign. He's obviously one of our better defenders. You want someone who's obviously going to be in the starting 18, can't get dropped. I think he's a candidate. I'd choose McGrath personally, but I think Redmond would actually not be a bad captain. I think he would actually be pretty reasonable. Nick Martin, at the age of 24, is in the leadership group as well. He is probably a future captain, I think, and I reckon my prediction would be he would possibly be the next captain after Andy McGrath. That would be, I suspect, where this would be heading if you were to look forward 4 or 5 years. He's at a good age for it. He's 24, but he's still quite young. I think you probably would like him to just continue to be the best player he can be. And, he's not going to be captain next year simply for the reason he's overcoming a knee reconstruction. I've put him in here simply because he's part of the leadership group and he is part of that group of players that could have been contending for it had he not been injured. Is there a chance he could be captain in the years ahead? Absolutely. 24 years old, maybe our best player now if you assume that Merrett's going, and someone that does show a lot of leadership and commitment to the cause, and I think he would actually be a very good captain. I don't think he will be that next year though. The other player in the leadership group is Kyle Langford. There's always been talk of Kyle Langford getting traded, but it never seems to come from him. It always seems to come from fans or, the media. They just seem to sort of look at players who they think are at a certain age group and not getting success or whatever. But all the indications are that he is committed to the cause and wants to stay at Essendon. With Langford, I was impressed when he came back into the team late in the season because he's one of those players you really realised how badly you missed him. And he showed a lot of leadership. One of the things I was noticing was him, and look, you don't know exactly what he's saying to the players, but when he came back into the team, he was in for the St Kilda game, and it might have been the week before as well. I can't remember whether that was his first game back or second game back, but I was watching him, in reference to Kako sort of pointing, and he was giving directions. Now, what those directions were, we don't exactly know, but he's obviously telling them, go to this spot. It might be for a zone defensive position or to pick up this player or whatever. But you could see his natural leadership qualities. And I actually think he would be a very good captain. I wouldn't have any qualms about picking him as the captain. Like I said, I don't think he will be. I think it'll go to McGrath. But I would have no hesitation in saying that Langford would be a good captain. And I just look at those things when I look from afar at him giving direction to the younger players. That's the kind of thing I'm looking at when I'm looking at a captain. Obviously, you can't hear what they're saying. You're not in the inner sanctum. But I look at their body language. I look at their, how they look on the field in terms of their stature, in terms of their how they're giving direction to the other players. And I think Kyle Langford is in the leadership group for that reason. And I think he is a contender for the captaincy. He would be a very good one. And I'd like to let you guys know, or like you guys to let me know in the comments, whether you think he'd be a good captain and who you would actually choose. By the way, if you do like this channel, please hit the like and subscribe button. I'm at about 2,200 subscribers. The channel's growing really well. I'd like to keep it going. So hit the like and subscribe as it helps the YouTube algorithm. I'd really, really appreciate it. So some of the younger players that are not currently in the leadership group that would be kind of out there choices, and I see these as future captains potentially, I'll just go through them. Jai Caldwell is number one. Now, I really rate Jai Caldwell as a young leader. I love his dedication. He's just a talented player as well. I love the way he plays. He's at a good age, 24 years old. He'll be turning 25 next year. And I think I've always looked at him, this time last year, I looked at him as probably Essendon's next captain before the whole Merrett stuff happened. And you're thinking that Merrett will be with the club for another 4 or 5 years. I looked, well, Caldwell, when he gets to the age of 29 or 30, would probably be Essendon's next captain. Obviously, that's changed now with the likelihood that Merrett is not going to be there. It sort of changes that time frame, if you like, a sliding doors moment. But I do see him as someone that could be captain one day. Zach Reid is the other one. The only problem with Zach Reid is he gets injured. And if he hadn't been injured all the time, I reckon there's a pretty good chance he would be in the leadership group right now. We currently have 4 in the leadership group. He's not one of them, but how could you be when you only played about 20 games? Now, if he can get his act together in terms of his body, and get everything working correctly as it should, I think there's a very, very good chance that he is capable of captaining the side one day. But obviously that's contingent on him getting his body right. He certainly has the leadership ability, I think. I think he's got the potential to do it. It all just depends on the physical side of things. Sam Durham as well, 24 years old. I don't know if he's a leader. I think he's more of a foot soldier. That's probably how I would describe Sam Durham. A committed player, a dedicated player, in and under player. Every club would love to have a Sam Durham playing for him. But I've never really heard much about his leadership qualities. He does look like a kind of alpha player, if you like, to give him a description. But I just see him more as a foot soldier rather than a captain. But if anyone does, know him or know him personally or is in the inner sanctum and you sort of know what his leadership qualities are like or could potentially be like, maybe he's one to consider as well in the future. But for now, I do see him as more of a foot soldier than a captain. The last one is, and this is not for next year, this is looking more to the future, is Archie Roberts. Archie Roberts is 19 years old and he's kind of a bit of a mini kind of captain of the back line down there, if you like, off the half-back flank. Not literally, of course, but I like his durability. I like his dedication. He seems popular amongst everyone. And I think he's the kind of player that could grow into a leadership role. He's probably too young for it at the moment, 19 years old. I think when he gets to that age of 22, 23, once he's rocked up 80 games and is a well-established player in the side, I think there's a pretty good chance he will be in the leadership group of Essendon within perhaps 3 to 4 years, but just not now. So that would be my prediction here. I think McGrath would ascend to the captaincy. My second choice would be Langford if I was pushed, and my third choice would be Mason Redman. I think they'd all be pretty good captains. Are they all the best players at the club? No, but that's not what you're looking for in a captain. I always think back to Nick Maxwell at Collingwood when he captained Collingwood in 2010. He was in no way their best player, and he probably wasn't in their best 5 players. But he was a very, very good captain, and that's why they chose him. Look, he was a good player. I'm not knocking him as a player, but he certainly wasn't their best player. But everyone at Collingwood, acknowledged him as being a natural leader and the best choice as captain. So don't, knock McGrath because you don't think he's the best player, or even Redman or Langford. That's really not got a lot to do with it. They just need to be good enough to be in the team and maybe a top 6 or top 8 player, something like that. But are they capable of inspiring their teammates and leading a famous club like us out of the doldrums? I think Merrett, with his leadership style, perhaps not the best leader, in my opinion. You guys might disagree. That's just my view on it. But I think McGrath would be a good choice. So I'm going to leave it there. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. Have a great day, everybody. And as always, go Bombers.